Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about a federal program, nuance, and how to fix it. There's a program that pops up in the headlines pretty often, and it is certain to pop up again soon. And we got a question about it, and I really like the way it's phrased. What is the 1033 program? Is it good or bad? A lot of political organizations I trust say that it's horrible and it needs to be ended now. My professor says that it's not that simple. Who's right, and what can Biden do about it? They're both right. They are both right. And we'll get into that. But what can Biden do about it? Biden, by himself, he can provide some temporary relief to the problems. If you want an actual fix, it's going to need Congress. Okay, so what is it? It is a program run by the Defense Logistics Agency that transfers excess military equipment to law enforcement. Immediately, you're like, that's horrible. That's why we have MRAPs on the streets. Yeah, it is. It is. And that's how it gets used a lot, way more than it should. It definitely facilitates the desire of departments to cast the image of the warrior cop. No doubt. Has a lot of problems. However, it isn't that simple. Because rural counties, they need this program. And it's not for MRAPs. It's not for stuff like that. The county next to me, years ago, it was not a wealthy county. It didn't have a lot of tax revenue. But it did have a lot of beach. And when the developers showed up and started developing down there, and then the tourists showed up, started going out onto that beach and then out into the Gulf, not realizing that even when it's calm, it can be rough underneath, we started losing people. The county there, they never could have afforded the equipment they needed to save people. They didn't have the money. Plain and simple. The tax revenue had not caught up yet. They used 1033 to get the biggest Zodiac I have ever seen, a giant rescue boat, and some ATVs. Saved lives. Saved lives. The program itself is neither inherently good or bad. It's the intent of the department, the intent of the user. The problem is the intent of a lot of departments right now isn't good. When you're talking about rural counties, though, here, if a kid goes missing out in the woods, you know, in the movies where the sheriff's like, you better call up Billy and have him bring his dogs. That still happens. It would be great if FLIR was available without having to call it in, infrared. And they could get it through this program. Now, realistically, I don't think my county could actually even afford the gas for the helicopter, but the equipment would be there if they could. So, it isn't inherently bad. There are good uses. The problem is that for every county I can point to and say, hey, they used it responsibly, I can point to 10 counties that are basically Mayberry that fully outfitted an MRAP and a SWAT team with it. And that's not good, because while they can get a lot of equipment through this program, they don't get any training. So they get this stuff and they don't know how to use it. And it winds up being a danger to the community rather than saving lives. Okay, so what can Biden do about it? By himself, he could sign an executive order to limit transfers of the stuff we don't want transferred. You know, politicians are really fond of saying, we don't want weapons of war on our streets. Well, stop putting them there. I mean, you're talking about literal weapons of war in this case. So he could limit those transfers. He could stop those transfers. I actually think he has the power to recall equipment that's already been dispersed via executive order. However, anything he does by executive order can be undone by executive order. So the next president could come through and start dispersing everything again. The real solution here would be Congress changing it completely. What I would like to see would be a single program that EMS, fire departments, law enforcement, schools, libraries could all access. Because military equipment isn't just limited to the stuff you're thinking about. The military has filing cabinets, they have desks, they have audiovisual equipment that they give away. The idea of disposing of excess equipment in this way, it's good. It is good. It's a good use of resources, and that taxpayer money doesn't get wasted. The problem is it gets used a lot to militarize police departments. That's not good. It ends up being a danger to the community rather than something to help it. That's what needs to change. Now, realistically, in order to do that, even though I think this program still divides everything up between controlled and uncontrolled, meaning like filing cabinets would be uncontrolled, magazines for weapons would be controlled. I think it's still divided up that way, I'm not sure. But I think if you wanted real change, you'd probably have to scrap this whole program and build it again from the bottom up. I think that's probably what needs to happen. But your professor's right. It's not as simple as 1033 is bad. It just gets used in a bad way more than it gets used in a good way. So, anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.